A very good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Portugal. We find ourselves in the beautiful seaside town of Portimao this evening. 15 minutes drive outside that. And welcome you to round 2 of the MC Motorsport Super Formula Lights Season 1 Championship. Tell you what a first week of racing we had, and it's great to be back with you again tonight. My name is Jared Cole here on behalf of Simple Racing Broadcasts, bringing to you tonight the MC Motorsport, powered by MCSR, Super Formula Lights Championship. And very good to be here with you. I am on my own this evening in the commentary booth, so I'd really welcome any questions, any interaction from chat out there this evening to keep us going as we take on a couple of races this evening. We've got a lot in store, so let's kick it off. As always, we'll take a look at the event conditions for this evening. And as we join here at Autodromo Internacional do Algarve, the lap that we've got tonight, 4.5 kilometres long, 15 turns to challenge the drivers. And it's a hell of a technical track with a really long straight section to take advantage of the full draft that we can get out of these Super Formula Lights. Promises to be some very close racing yet again. We saw all sorts of incidents in our opening race, and tonight we find ourselves with a jam-packed field, looking like pretty well the entire contingent of drivers on track tonight, all 30 spots taken up. So promises to be a very, very exciting evening of racing ahead for you all. The track conditions absolutely beautiful. A little bit of cloud around this evening, but an air temperature of 20 degrees means it's not too hot for these drivers or their cars. The track temp at 53 degrees, we're going to see some really sticky tyres, and certainly tyre degradation is something that the drivers will have to manage across the 2 races this evening. If we talk about the track here at Portimao, it's one of the newest tracks that we'll find in the series. It only opened in 2008, but the design of this track is really impressive. You know, in amongst the 15 turns, the drivers are going to have to look out for quite a few that catch new players out. You know, turn 1 Primera at the very least, off the back of that long front straight, will surely challenge drivers to carry the most speed that they can through there. And if they do make it through that, there's more turns ahead set to challenge them. Turn 5, the Torre VIP, really, really critical braking section with a very bumpy entry and then an early exit from that one, making life difficult for the drivers. Turn 10 at the apex of the hill up the top of Portimao there really just limits the driver's view of that next section as it comes over the top of the hill, down into turns 11 and 12, and Portimao immediately after turn 10. Very, very technical, tight and sharp turns for the drivers to deal with. So it will be very, very interesting to see how they manage that tonight. Turns 13 and 14 into Sagres as well. Great opportunity for overtaking. And if you can get the drive right out of that corner, then you're on your way for that long, long, long front straight where I'm sure we'll see drivers absolutely top out the abilities of the Super Formula Lights. So a little bit to go yet. We've still got another 6 or 7 minutes of qualifying. Let's talk briefly about the championship standings after one race, and unfortunately had a few issues this evening with our data coming through, so you'll have to bear with me as we work through this. But Scott Pocock, the overall winner of round 1, finished up with no wins last week, but his finishes were good enough to see him at the top of the table after round 1 with 197 points, followed closely behind by Scott Bartine on 182 points, who did take out a race win for round 1. Tristan McLaren sneaking into 3rd with 177 points, followed by Andrew Lydon in 4th with 170 points. Andrew Johnston, 164 points, taking out 5th, ahead of a three-way tie for 6th. Jason Depp, Hayden Kalman and Mitchell Curry all on 148 points after round 1. And then it just gets closer from there, with Jamie Nankovitz taking out round 1's 9th spot, 146 points. And then 10th place to Douglas Gowan's 144 points there. So as you can see, a very, very close race still. A little bit more separation at the top of the table than lower down, but plenty of points still to play for. This is round 2 of 6. So very much looking forward to seeing who comes out on top. We know we've got some really fast drivers amongst this, quite a number of them that are reasonably new to MC Motorsport, so good for me to get to know their style and their pace. So really looking forward to seeing who we've got out there today, and again how their performance stacks up after last week, particularly in such a crowded field. We're seeing a lot of fast times being set around the track in qualifying. So very interesting first turn ahead, I'm sure. I'm really hoping. I put the commentator's curse on it last week by saying that we would probably get away without a safety car for the first 10 turns or so. We did make it, but we didn't make it through lap 1 without the safety car coming out. So we'll have to wait and see what tonight brings. Hoping everyone's learned from last week and they do know to just take it a little easy if we can. And hopefully we see some better results. Good to see you there, Full Send Motorsports, and yeah, good luck to all the teams tonight. I'm sure you're backing Full Send, of course. That's pretty reasonable. I can't argue with that. But I've got to be a little impartial after all, so I'll do my best to stay impartial and try and cheer everybody on as evenly as I can. Excuse me. So we've got a little time yet before the grid will be announced, but as it stands, I can tell you that Scott Bartine finds himself up the top end of the field, so looking to really hold on to his top spot up in the standings in the championship. But with so many different cars in the race tonight, it is only a short season at 6 weeks. So really, you've got to be here every week to challenge for the top spots, I suspect. There won't be, even though we do have a drop round, there won't be many opportunities to pick up points if you do miss out. So everyone will be going for it tonight. And as I said, with a full field of 30 drivers getting out there, it's going to be crowded. I'm thankful that it's a pretty open track because there's going to be a lot of these Super Formula cars trying to find their way around as we make our way through the 2 races tonight. And hopefully everyone survives at the end of it. Neil Haynes, good to see you supporting Matthew Neal. I can tell you that at present he's only set a reasonably middling qualifying time, but that's okay. It doesn't mean much at this stage. It's everyone getting to grips with the track. Hopefully we see him feature, and we'll try and catch him on camera tonight for you as well. So look, a few more races to go from here. You know, we've got another 4 after this, and if you haven't caught us as well on Thursday nights, keep in mind we've got more racing on Thursday nights with the Toyota 86 Cup also running alongside the Super Formula Lights for this season. So another 6-week season over there. And one of the things I really loved about that last week was just how close all that racing was. We saw the first race taken out by 0.4 of a second. So very, very tight racing. Lots of fun to watch, and certainly do encourage you to come along and check that out as well, because that is, of course, coming up just a little later in the week. What's ahead in this season? Well, we've got Portimao this week. We head to everyone's favourite, I think. We're heading to Spa next week, so that will present some pretty interesting racing as well, I'm sure. I don't think I've ever seen open wheelers at Spa. I've seen a lot of GT3 racing there, but I don't think I've been privy to seeing open wheelers through Spa, so I reckon there's going to be quite a bit of very close racing, if not a few crashes there. Not great for the drivers, but fantastic for our coverage because it makes for good viewing, really, doesn't it? Good to see you, Nick. Mate, missing you as well. I'm hoping I can do you justice here, and looking forward to welcoming you back into the booth a little later on in the year as we get back into the GT3s in their next season, which is coming up, look, really, really soon. The year's getting away from us very, very quickly, so I'm sure we'll have you back here in no time. So, as we count it down, would love to hear from you. We know we've got Matthew Neal, a bit of support there tonight. Nick, who's your pick for tonight? I'm curious. I'd love to hear who you're supporting in this one from afar as a change. But we've certainly got a whole bunch to choose from, and a lot of names that I haven't actually seen drive before. So I'm a little unsure of what to expect out of tonight. But we are just about ready to take a look at the grid for race 1 as the drivers start to think about just getting into that mindset for the shorter sprint race first up. There's not a lot of difference, but when we're only talking a 20-minute race, it doesn't take much for that to kind of get away from you if we do find a safety car or two. So we'll wait and see. Anyhow, as qualifying finishes up, let's take ourselves a look at the grid. So Craig Edwards tonight, the man himself, has taken out pole position ahead of Scott Bartine from Everything Simulated Racing, taking out the second spot on the grid. Doug Gowans and Greg Bradley taking third and fourth. Adrian Loretti and Scott Pocock, both from Kittens Racing, rounding out the top six there. So good to see those teammates up alongside each other and well up the grid. Lam Nguyen and Jason Depp with Velocity Racing team there. Jake Robillard and Tesoriero in number 9 and 10 respectively. Andrew Johnston and Ian Ward in 11th and 12th on that 6th row of the grid. We've got Chris Philippou and Matthew Gerard in 13th and 14th. Hayden Callan and Tom Maloney 15th and 16th. Tristan McLaren from Everything Simulated Racing finds himself a little further down the pack than he'd probably like tonight, taking 17th spot right alongside Darren Fay from Kittens Racing. So he'll be hoping for a bit of a tow from his teammates if he can catch them further up the grid. We look a bit further back. Mitch Curry's in the MC Motorsport entry tonight, obviously the name behind our series tonight, so good to see him out on track in 19th. ADHD Racing have changed their livery up yet again, so looking forward to getting a closer look at that tonight. Josh Harris in 20th. Sam Katakuzinis, I'm going to apologise, Sam, I'm going to butcher your name all night, I'm sure. Velocity Sim Lab there supporting him. Luke Hayden, then Matthew Neal in 23rd with Lee Caldulis at 24th alongside him. Ryan Palmer from ADHD 25th, Scott Butler in 26th, Jamie Nankovic in the Valve Esport entry in 27th, Luke Speck 28th, Nathan Bowman 29th, and Brian East from Slightly Slow Racing in 30th position. As we jump straight to the grid, we're getting ready to go. We've got a green light. We're underway. They're away clean. No one stalled it on the grid. Always a great start as we see the drivers coming down to turn one. Already gaps starting to open up through the field as they jockey for position into turn one. We're keeping an eye here on these front three, but we'll keep a close eye on the back of the pack as everyone starts to thin out, going 2 wide, 3 wide into these first corners as we try to get into some sort of rhythm. And everyone really careful not to lock wheels as we come on through the first set of corners. Everything looking pretty smooth so far, so I'm hoping we've learned from the first round just how fragile these open wheelers can be. A lot of these drivers very much used to the tin tops, the GT3 racing, 3 wide out of these corners as everyone finds themselves getting a bit of a different run out of those as well. And we're on board here with Andrew Johnston sitting in 10th at the moment. Nice wide shot taking in most of the field there as well. And Craig Edwards out in front, still comfortably leading Scott Bartine. A couple of gaps starting to open up in the field as everyone just starts to settle into their rhythm. And we look for the first big racing move to set us apart there. Another ADHD Racing entry coming through. Tell you what, these guys do like their loud liveries. The Lifesaver liveries are definitely a thing. Definitely a thing. As we take a look up front, completing the first lap mostly without incident, so we're looking pretty good so far. Craig Edwards, the man to beat, absolutely setting the pace as we get through lap 1. Everybody clean. Oh, we've got a spin in pit lane. What's happened back there? Who's that's gone off? Is that Nathan Bowman? Nathan Bowman and Ian Ward have come together. We'll go back and we'll take a quick look at that one in just a moment. Cold tyres does it again. So that's Ian Ward. And then, clipped him as he's tried to avoid. Nathan Bowman's had nowhere to go. That's really unfortunate. Really unfortunate. Hopefully back on track reasonably quickly, and we can see them get going again from there. Thankfully, though, we've gotten away without a safety car. So, look, pretty lucky, I think, that's happened right next to the pits there. And honestly, Bowman's almost done us all a favour by spinning into the pit lane, because that's kept the racing going for everybody else. As Craig Edwards continues to build his lead over Scott Bartine, Doug Doug Gowans and Greg Bradley not too far behind. These guys will need to start thinking about how they work together to try and catch Craig Edwards, who seems to have all the pace this evening, as he sets a blistering 1:35.9. So continuing to pull away. Scott Bartine, by comparison on lap 1:36.261. So he's losing space. He's losing a lot of time every lap. So I'm not sure where Craig Edwards is finding this pace at the moment, but he'll be enjoying it as we watch everyone start to roll through. And it looks like we've had Luke Hyden's had an incident as well. So let's have a quick look at that and see if we can catch what's happened to him. Well, looks like he's pretty tidy there, so perhaps nothing to worry about. I don't mind seeing that my data here is a bit off, because I'd rather people aren't crashing out as we see this. Although Luke continues to seem to have issues. I'm wondering if he might just be having some connection issues. We'll take a quick look here and just make sure he's doing all right. It looks like he's coming into the pit, so we may have to have a look back. It does look like that one might be legitimate. He might have actually lost the car there. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. Meanwhile, as the race continues, everyone looking a little more spread out than we were probably expecting for so early on in this race. As we take a look at the gap to the leaders, and really only a couple of packs starting to open up there. Here we go. We're taking a look at the battle for 12th here. Darren Fay leading out Andrew Johnston and Sam Kay. I'm going to try not to butcher your name again, mate, tonight. I'm very sorry. And we're starting to see a couple of really distinct packs forming in amongst this field. Looking just a little further back from this group of three, we're seeing Matthew Gerard leading, Chris Philippou, Josh Harris, Tristan McLaren, Matthew Neal, and Lee Keldoulis. So the six of them all tightly locked together. Meanwhile, out front, Craig Edwards continues to lead with his gap maintained at about a second over Scott Bartine. So we'll have to keep an eye on that race up front. But I want to stick with this pack here because there are moves being made and everyone battling for any position they can get to try and grab a couple of extra points. Good to see a viewer in from Indonesia. Lovely to have you here this evening. And look, I don't want to put any more commentator curses out there, but we have made it through a good portion of this first race without a safety car, and not really a whole lot looking like it's going to happen. Well, it does look like, hang on, Tristan McLaren looks like he's had an incident. Let me check back with him. Oh, just right at the back of one of the ADHD Racing boys. I hope he hasn't suffered too much damage in that incident. He's managed to get it back on track by the look of things, but he's lost a lot of positions. Thankfully, only hurt himself in that one. Just couldn't quite get on the brakes enough to pull it up. As we take a look forward, and this front pack really starting to spread out now. Craig Edwards maintaining his 1.5 second or thereabout lead, but then another 1.5 seconds back to Doug Gowans here, who's closely followed by Greg Bradley, but then another couple of seconds back to Adrian Loretti, and another couple of seconds back to the group of Scott Pocock, Jason Depp, Lam Nguyen, and Tom Maloney. Also Matt Tesoriero tucking on the back there. So yeah, Kittens Motorsport definitely representing tonight up in that top 10. Quite a few of their entries keeping up in the field, but tell you what, no one seems to have the pace tonight to keep up with Craig Edwards. Yeah, look, Phil, probably a bot. You're probably right, but hey, we'll take what we can get, right? We don't mind a bit of company around here. Nothing wrong with it. And it looks like Mitch Curry's had an incident just a couple of laps ago as well. We might just take a quick look back at that while this is all sorting itself out. All on his own out here. No? Okay, it looks like we might be having primarily connection issues here this evening with people jumping in and out a little. So we'll have to see if we can get that resolved for you during the break. But on the whole, we're looking reasonably tidy, I think. As we see Scott Pocock maintaining the front of this group of cars. So Kittens in their striking pink and black livery, very, very visible, with the Velocity Motorsports entry right behind him there. Jason Depp looking for a way through. He's been stuck to the back of Pocock's car for a good couple of laps now. Not many turning opportunities here, though, unless you get the driver. He makes a big move up the inside. Oh, almost coming together. Jason Depp having to just back it off to make sure he left room there. And Pocock regains the space. But I tell you what, Depp will be looking for another crack at that. Meanwhile, Thomas Maloney sees Depp having to slow. He's going to have a shot up the inside here. Giving each other plenty of space, keeping it clean. Oh, very, very close on the exit. As Thomas Maloney looks to shut out Jason Depp just in case he does make a run on it. Plenty of pace as we come down the line. 10 minutes to go. We're halfway through this first race of tonight's MC Motorsport Super Formula Lights event. Jason Depp and Thomas Maloney getting side by side again. Meanwhile, Lam Nguyen's having a look from behind. He's going to have a go at it. A little bit of a lock up there from Scott Pocock, so that might cost him a bit of pace as they come into this section. But everyone keeping it tidy, just waiting, biding their time for the right jump. Big, big catch under brakes there from Jason Depp. He's definitely leaving it late, trying to close that gap. But again, Thomas Maloney pulls away, just getting great drive. It looks like Depp might have locked the brakes up there just a little. And that certainly cost him his ability to get back out of that corner and get the drive down. As we take a look a little further up the field, Doug Gowans and Greg Bradley still battling out here. This is for P3. And you can see they're not far off the back of Craig Edwards and Scott Bartine, but got each other to contend with for the moment. Greg Bradley's just been threatening, hasn't quite been able to put a move on at this stage. But he's sticking in there. We're halfway through this first race. I tell you what, it goes quick. It goes real quick. So these guys can't wait around as Doug Gowans starts to pull away. So he's got a bit more pace through this part of the circuit by the look of things. And that gap just hovering around half a second back to Greg Bradley, who's going to be able to get in and just catch a little with this aerodynamic slipstream down the front straight. Pulling it back now to just within 3/10 as they brake hard into corner one. And then we have a Greg Bradley closing up from what was a half-second gap. He's gained 2/10 down the front straight, but here it is. Doug Gowan starts to put the hammer down. He's got the pace through corners. He's pulling away again. Bradley's got no answers here. He's stuck 3/10, although he pulls it back. Big lock up there. Lucky to get away with no contact. As we take a look back again to the battle for sixth, this group of 5 cars. Scott Pocock still holding off Thomas Maloney. Jason Depp still unable to make his way through. So Pocock and Maloney both in the Kittens Racing entries. Bit of teamwork there going on, perhaps, I don't know, but they're holding it together really nicely. So if they can continue this for another 7 minutes or so, they're going to pick up some really, really good points here. As we take a look a bit further back in the field, Chris Philippou has a battle there for 17th. Matthew Neal has been tailing him for a little while, just slowly reeling him in, with Lee Keldoulis along for the ride as well. That gap from Neal now down to about half a second. We see Andrew Johnston's had a spin. Andrew Johnston there off to the side. Let's go back and have a look at what's happened to the poor bloke. All on his own, just lost. Oh, that's a huge crash. Huge crash. And that's brought out the safety car. So there we have it, our first safety car for the evening. G'day Cam, how you doing? Trading paints might be having some issues. It's probably worth a look. Well, I've got this safety car period. We might try and get that sorted out for us, and see if we can get some of these paints updated as well. I know there's been a couple of issues this week with it, and with iRacing as well. We had a crash there, an iRacing crash during a broadcast over the weekend as well, which was not great. So everything's just been a bit skewy since this last update. As we see the cars starting to bunch up as they slowly make their way around to behind the safety car. So while that's all bunching up, we've actually had a couple of... Andrew Johnston had a big one there. It does look like we might have had a couple other incidents on the same lap, with Hayden Calnan potentially having a bit of a drama. It does look like we're getting a bunch of connection issues tonight. So it's making it interesting for me to try and pick whether or not there have actually been incidents, as that's Tristan McLaren's incident on the same lap. Very, very lucky to not get collected there, so got away with it and only lost a spot as a result. Yeah, look, it could well be a trading paints issue. We're updating some paints as we speak, so hopefully by the time we go live again, we'll be back into it. Yeah, spot on, Cam. It's good to see Doug Gowans. He was quick last week and probably a little unfortunate to not come away with more points than he did. But a really, really good set of laps turned in last week, and he's backing it up again this week, just maintaining P3 quite comfortably. As we take a look to the front of the field, there's our safety car. So all bunching up again, all the work that Craig Edwards has put in to pull out in front. And it's all been undone by this safety car period. So everyone bunched right back up again behind him. This will be a great opportunity for Scott Bartine though. And then Doug Gowans as well, not too far behind. Now we'll see what happens with the safety car this evening. We had a particularly long safety car opening the first race. Ended up being about 3 laps, I think, of safety car period, as we waited for everything to be cleared off the track. I'm hoping tonight we might only see a couple of laps from the safety car, but we did have I think 2 or 3 incidents on that lap, but a huge accident. Tristan McLaren. Lucky though that he's got a fast repair up the sleeve, because that's got him back on track and hasn't cost him quite as many spots as it perhaps could have. As we go back, sorry, Andrew Johnston had that big accident, which has set him back quite a way. As he's in the pits, he's no fast repair. I'm sorry, he's currently sitting there 3 minutes into repairs, and at this rate he might not actually get back on track after that one. I suspect that front suspension is probably done for after such a big hit into the wall. Doesn't take much to undo these cars completely for the evening, with the amount of exposure that their suspension components have. Very, very easy for them to get knocked out of the race completely. As we see a few of our liveries starting to update, and I think Scott Pocock might just have his sorted now. Looks like we're back in the Red Rocket racing entry. As the field continues bunched up behind, let's wait while everything gets refreshed there. It does look like Scott Pocock in the Kittens entry for this evening, so if memory serves... Yeah, spot on, Neil. We did see a very, very long safety car there. And there we go. We've just been given 1 lap to green, so this will be the last lap under safety car, as the drivers keep that temperature in the tyres as best they can. Scott Bartine will be thinking about how he manages to get a jump on Craig Edwards here. So we see a car coming into the pits as well. So that's Luke Hayden, who's in pit lane just at the moment. I'm not quite sure what's going on for his car, but he'll be a little disappointed to note that he is going to have to come from way behind as these guys all line it up. So hopefully he can get back on the road again quickly and catch onto the back of this as the safety car gets ready to pull back off into pit lane and these guys go green. And a little bit of a gap opening up in the field. I'm surprised to see these guys aren't bunching right up as we take a look at Craig Edwards and Scott Bartine. A little bit of synchronised back and forth there across the track. Just trying to get every last little bit of heat into those tyres as we get ready to go racing once again. It looks like, though, we might... Now, this is going to be really close. I think we might actually be out of time to get another lap out of this. I think we might be finishing under safety car. And this is what can happen with a safety car at the wrong time in such a short race, only 20 minutes for this opening sprint. Is Craig Edwards about to be handed the win, or are we going to see one more lap? Now, I'm not quite sure how iRacing figured this out in a timed event. We'll see in just a moment whether we get confirmation from the race stewards. Yet to hear, so we'll see what happens here. We might have one more lap as they come around, and if so, this is going to be an absolutely chaotic final lap. We'll stick with Craig Edwards here. Because turn one is going to be a nightmare. Everyone bunched up so close with everything to play for. So are we getting one more, or is this going to be the final lap? Are they going to be handed the win as they come across the line? This is all a bit new for us here, so we'll have a look, but it does look like we've got a green flag out. The green flag is at the ready at the end of the straight. Craig Edwards has control of the line. 100% fill. The stamps being licked as they start to send it. And there goes Craig Edwards. He's made the jump. Here comes Scott Bartine right behind. That's Greg Bradley getting a jump on Doug Gowans. So they're going to be going into turn one side by side. Huge move across the front from Doug Gowans to hang on to that, though. Oh, very lucky not to make contact as we keep an eye on these guys coming through these first couple of turns. Looks like everyone, though, getting through clean at this stage, which is pretty impressive. One fast, furious final lap. Everyone making it through those first few turns. But Craig Edwards maintaining his gap ahead of Scott Bartine. Doug Gowans manages to hold off Greg Bradley at this stage. And then Thomas Maloney. Adrian Loretti has come out of nowhere up into sixth, ahead of Jason Depp and Scott Pocock. So he's made a big move there. And Scott Bartine cannot stay with Craig Edwards. Craig Edwards just way too fast. Has got this car absolutely dialed, which is pretty impressive considering it's a fixed setup. And it looks like Sam Kay's come off. He's dropping back through the field furiously. We'll have a look at that in just a second. As we see Craig Edwards coming across the line. And takes P1. Fantastic finish. Very, very lucky to get away with that on that last lap as everyone starts to jump side to side and try and pick up those last couple of spots. What a huge finish. Safety cars add a whole different set of circumstances in amongst that. Let's go back and take a quick look and see what happened to Sam K there. Oh, he's just hit the tyre. Oh, that's brutal. You cannot get away with that in an open wheeler. That's cost him big positions. He's ended up right down the back and finds himself in the bottom 5 or 6 as a result. Oh, that's heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking. So we take a look at the final race results from Heat 1. So Craig Edwards taking the win there. Scott Bartine in the Everything Simulated Racing entry, not too far behind. Doug Gowans and Greg Bradley, followed by Tom Maloney. Adrian Loretti from Kittens Racing taking out number 6, ahead of Depp from Velocity, and Scott Pocock from Kittens as well in 8th place. The top 10 rounded out by Lam Nguyen and Matt Tesseriero. So a huge number of changes in that top 10 order due to that safety car and that restart. Jake Robillard picking up 11th with Darren Fay not far behind, also from Kittens in 12th. Josh Harris from ADHD, probably his best finish in any race that I reckon I've seen him in so far across the GT3 season and these two current seasons, finishing in 13th there. Well done, Mr. Harris. Matthew Gerard in 14th. Chris Philippou in 15th. Matthew Neal picks up 16th, so moving up almost 10 spots, I think, from where he ended up starting. Ryan Palmer, the other ADHD Racing, got to be a top finish for him as well, coming in 17th. Lee Keldulis in 18th. Ian Ward and Luke Speck round out the top 20. And then Jamie Nankovis for Valve Esport and Nathan Bowman back in 21st and 22nd. Tristan McLaren, after that accident, ended up back in 23rd. Everything Simulated Racing there. Mitch Curry in 24th. He had a bit of a shocker as well. Scott Butler in 25th. Sam Kay, unfortunate to finish 26th after that last lap mishap with Velocity SimLab there. Brian East with Slightly Slow Racing makes it up a few spots from his starting position, with Hayden Callan, Andrew Johnston and Luke Hayden rounding out the 30. And wow, what a way to finish it. One fast and furious lap. So we'll look ahead now because we'll have a completely reversed grid for this next session. A 30-minute session ahead of us. So drivers just beginning their warm-ups and trying to just come to grips there. We'll see if our grid has actually loaded just yet for that session. It hasn't, so we will have to come back to that. Meanwhile, look, we'll take a quick break. I'm going to go and get myself a drink and get ready to keep you company through race 2 of this round 2 of the Super Formula Lights season here with MC Motorsport, powered by MCSR. And welcome back, viewers, as we start to get ready for our feature race this evening. Hot tip to new players, always make sure your mic is muted if you do need to have a bit of an off-air cough. That's a bit of a shocker, I'm sorry. I hope that didn't scare anyone out there. Let's have a quick look at our grid for race number 2 this evening, as it all starts to fall into place. So we'll have a bit of a reset there of the finishing positions from race 1, as Matt Tesoriero and Lam Nguyen head the grid up, followed by Scott Pocock, Jason Depp, Adrian Loretti and Tom Maloney. I don't think we've actually had... it's an interesting grid we've had set up. Have to talk to race control about that because it looks a little out of place. A little out of place here. But this is how they're gridding. Greg Bradley and Doug Gowans in 7th and 8th. Scott Bartine and Craig Edwards rounding out the top 10. Robiard and Fay from Kittens Racing in 11th and 12th, with Harrison Gerard, Philippou and Neil, Palmer and Keldulis rounding that out. We're jumping straight into it, ladies and gentlemen, so we're going to go ready for racing. They've wasted no time in getting these cars back on track this time. And we're away for 40 minutes. I feel like they're pushing me along this evening, but we want to get this underway. I think everyone's keen to get back into some open laps. As we make it through turn 1, hopefully unscathed. But geez, look at this, 3-4 wide. The ADHD boys right alongside each other as well. So we're on board with Ryan Palmer right now, sitting back in 15th, right behind Matthew Neal. Fantastic sound, because we've got a safety car out already. What on earth has happened here? We had what looks like a big accident just back in the field. We must have just missed this while we were in the onboard shot. Oh, that's a huge one. Who have we got involved? Jamie Nankovitz, Tristan McLaren, Mitch Curry, Ian Ward, Lee Kildulis and Matthew Gerard all involved in that incident. And some big damage there for Tristan McLaren's vehicle. Oh, that's horrible. Back under safety car conditions after that, no great surprise, because that's going to take some cleaning up. And I guess we'll start it all over again. Got to be careful. I was amazed that we had made it through those first corners 3, 4, 5 wide with no incident. It couldn't last forever, obviously. And that's done some big damage to the hopes of those drivers, as we see Tristan McLaren, Mitch Curry, Gerard, Keldulis and Ward all headed for the pits. Yeah, not wrong, Cam. These halos serve their purpose. That was a massive hit. We'll go back and we'll see if we can just take a bit of a look at it at perhaps a bit of a lower speed. Just a massive hit there, and very lucky to only have one car end up flipping in amongst all of that. Thanks, Neil. Appreciate you picking that up for me, mate. So here we are. Back behind the safety car again, where we just finished off. I thought we were done with it for the night. I was hoping. I know it was a big ask, but I was really hoping that might have been the only safety car for us to work with. So I think we'll see probably one more lap under safety car, which gives us a bit of time here to just get another look, if we can, at that incident. Just while we have the opportunity under safety car to take another look, and this time you can hear all of the bone crunching details of it. So we're focusing on Mitch Curry here, who's on the inside and just gets caught by that car sliding across. Nothing he could do about it. So again, that's Jamie Nankervis, Tristan McLaren, Mitch Curry, Ian Ward, Lee Kildulis, and Matthew Gerard all caught in that one incident. So 6 drivers in total. Absolutely massive. It'll take some cleaning up here, and hopefully this will buy a bit of time. So it does look like no, we've got 5 of those drivers. Jamie Nankervis back on track, so he's gotten away without too much damage. Finds himself down the very, very back of this pack. So he's managed to keep it on track despite getting caught up in it. So unfortunately for McLaren, Curry, Gerard, Kildulis and Ward, all still in the pits. They'll be praying that they can get some repairs done and back on track before... Oh, have a look at that front left. I've just seen the front left tyre there. Jamie Nankervis has some huge suspension damage. Now, I don't know if he's aware of that. We'll have to see if he comes into the pits here. But it looked to me like his front left wheel was not actually turning. I could be wrong. No, it looks okay. Okay. iRacing just keeping me on my toes. That's all right. I'm fine with that. Now we're going to see the safety car dropping off after this lap. Still under safety control for this lap so far. Race control just taking a look to see whether we're ready to go green perhaps towards the end of this one. Can only hope. Look, it doesn't make for great racing being stuck behind a safety car, obviously, but it does mean that these drivers are going to have to rethink their strategy. We know they're going to have to make a pit stop at some point for fuel. It's probably a bit too early for anyone to be thinking they'll get away with making a stop now and having that really play out well for them later. So we haven't seen anyone dive in there just yet. Yeah, Cam, so we did actually run in the GT3 series with a manual safety car. Here we go. So we will be going green the end of this lap. That's been updated by race control. This will be the last lap under safety car. So there was a manual safety car last season, and with this shorter season, we've had MC Motorsport going to the iRacing safety car to give it a try. So it does mean that we end up with usually 2 laps of safety car each time it comes out, because of course the iRacing safety car has to complete at least 1 full lap before you can adjust how long that period is. And unfortunately, the Porsche, as is the case in a lot of other series, not exactly quick around the track. To be fair, it would be nice if iRacing had the ability to change the pace of the safety car to suit the cars that you're actually racing in. I'd like to see that at some point. And yeah, look, we might see a return to manual safety car yet, but for this season, we'll be running with the iRacing safety car. So, old mate behind the wheel, I'm pretty sure the guy in the safety car has a name, though I can't remember for the life of me what it is. As we do get everyone just bunching up here now, it looks like we've got everybody that was involved in that incident back on track. So there will only be 1 lap down. Now, there's a possibility, if we get another safety car, they can make that up and get waved past by the safety car as well. So for those caught in that first lap incident, Kildulis, McLaren, Ward, Gerard and Curry, again to remind you, they're actually going to be hoping for another safety car period and a chance to get back that lap that they've gone down now after that incident. Meanwhile, Lam Nguyen finds himself out in front, and he'll have control of the race in just a moment. The safety car gets ready to peel off into the pits. Here we go. The green flag awaits them at the end of the straight. Liam Newen has control. And here we go. Back underway. We're under green flag conditions again. Now keep an eye on turn 1. The tyres will still be cold. These guys did not get to put much temperature into those tyres. Let's see if we make 3 wide there. Oh. I tell you what, this backpack lucky to hold it all together. As we get back under race conditions. So, Liam Newen continues to hold the front. Tesoriero, Pocock, Depp and Maloney not too far behind though. Everyone's still bunched up pretty tightly after that safety car period. So we'll see what the next lap or two does to sort them out and put a bit of space in there. But everyone pretty well in single file at this point. And just a few gaps starting to open up. Take a look at the pace of these cars around this track. Portimao, absolutely gorgeous. We go on board here with Liam Newen. Out in front, nothing but clean air to work with. And geez, you've got to love the sound of the Super Formula lights. Yeah, spot on, Neil. It's a beautiful livery too. The HSBC Jaguar entry with Liam Newen behind the wheel. Now, he was having some connection issues last week. He looks to have sorted that out, which is great to see. We had to actually disqualify Liam last week because his connection wasn't great. So, the outcome of that, car number 7, Ian Ward, has been hit with a drive-through penalty for that incident. So he'll be doing a drive-through now. It's going to set him back quite a bit further. He's currently in 25th, but he'll have to serve a drive-through penalty for that. So race control have made their decision, and Ian Ward found to be at fault for that incident. So keep an eye here on Scott Pocock in the Kittens entry. And again, Loretti and Thomas Maloney right behind him. So these guys featuring once again in the top 10. I'm not quite sure. Oh, look, we'll have to have a chat to race control. I don't know whether the grid has worked the way they were expecting. We'd ordinarily see a complete reverse grid there, I thought, but I may be confusing my series. It could be me. I could be wrong. It does happen, believe it or not, on a pretty regular basis. Just ask my wife. We start to settle back in. So still half an hour to go. Anything can happen from here. Another safety car could just see those first lap incidents cleaned up in terms of the gaps that a few of these drivers now have to overcome. But right now, Liam Newen maintaining his lead. Matt Tesoriero very keen to sort of latch on the back, but struggling to get the pace there, and he almost seems to be holding up the pack behind him. So you want to get a move on. We'll keep an eye on Jason Depp making a move at the end of the straight. As he makes his move at the start of the straight, ignores the draft and goes up alongside. Now, what can Scott Pocock make from this behind as Jason Depp takes the inside line and manages to get past with enough time to get over, gets his position and takes P2. Scott Pocock threatening as well. As we take a quick look back, Tom Maloney side by side with Adrian Loretti. Craig Edwards in the mix there as well. Oh, that was close. That was very close. Tom Maloney shuts the door on Adrian Loretti at just the right moment, I think. So we see Craig Edwards, up the inside there. Does he manage to make it stick? Side by side, he's got the inside line though, should manage this. But Adrian Loretti doesn't want to give it up that easily. You know what, Neil, you're spot on. I've confused the 86 series and the Super Formula lights. It's been one of those Mondays, hasn't it? So top 10 reversal makes a lot more sense. Thanks for picking it up and going searching for me for that one. So here we go. We've got the top 11 positions within 5 seconds of each other. The rest of the pack not too far behind. And a huge battle on right here for 6th, 7th, 8th. All of these positions to play for. everyone bunched up, and here's where the draft starts to play in. So a beautiful shot there of the top 10 or 12 cars all at once. We're getting 3 wide down the main straight. Who's going to hold it in there and who's going to break first? Loretti Blinks, Doug Gowans and Greg Bradley go through. Big slide there. That's Tom Maloney off. Tom Maloney's gone off in turn 1. And he's going to have to wait a long time to be able to re-enter safely. That's going to cost him. I have to go back a little further to try and catch that. What's happened is he's just gone too deep under brakes. Oh, he's just asked too much of the tyres. Oh, that's unfortunate. Tom Maloney was having a great race. Now finds himself down in 24th, would you believe? That's got to sting. Meanwhile, we take a look back up front. Tesoriero now out in front. Pocock and Ewan's dropped back a couple of spots there. We see this front group still all bunched up. There's a bit of a gap now from around 10th back. Ryan Palmer struggling to stay on the back of this train. Down the main straight we go again. Pocock overtaking Tesoriero as they go down towards turn 1. Let's see what sort of carnage we're expecting here. All pretty clean. But Matthew Neal, Chris Philippou getting in amongst it. You can really tell the difference when you're racing a track that's designed with open wheelers in mind, because so many of the other tracks that these guys are going to be racing on are nowhere near as wide as this. You can't go side by side 3 or 4 wide and expect to make it through. Oh, that's Lam Newens just made heavy contact. Who's that? Was that Greg Bradley as well? Let's go back and take a look. I'm not quite sure who that is that's run into him there. Oh, Lam Ewan. That's unfortunate. I'm not quite sure who it is that's actually gone into him there, but that's going to cost him, and through no fault of his own, he left plenty of space. Plenty of space left there, but just couldn't do anything about that car shooting across the track, and that means that we'll have an investigation from race control. They're having a look at that for us now. And I think that might have been... That's Greg Bradley. That was Greg Bradley. So you can see he's missing pretty well all of that nose cone now. He'll be heading into the pits after that one, as will Lam Ewan. And it looks like Matt Neal might have copped a bit of damage there as well. He's heading on in. Yeah, that's it. The Jaguar F1 is effectively... I can't see him coming back to be competitive again in this race after that, unfortunately. So we take a look back up front with Scotty Pocock still out in front. Craig Edwards, Matt Tesoriero hanging in there, but Doug Gowans now looking in the mirrors and seeing Scott Bartine on his way for some more points. So one of the series front runners finds himself back up front, and if he can stay tidy, that'll certainly help with his standings in the championship. But look at the gap there back to Josh Harrison 10th. So 5 seconds separating the top 9, and then another 5 seconds back to 10th. We've got 2 different races going on here. If we take a quick look at the train here, Scott Bartine's leading. Faye, Palmer and Depp all in behind him there. Tell you what, those Kittens liveries, they stand out. You can't miss them. We've got 3, maybe 4 of the Kittens race team in here this evening, so they're really featuring. Thankfully, it's a big field. Doesn't make it too easy for them to own the grid. And here we go. There's the move. Adrian Loretti pulls out alongside Scott Bartine. Can Darren Fahey follow through as well? Heavy braking into turn 2 there. And then up the hill. Completely changes the dynamics of the car and the acceleration through that corner. But a very solid pass there from Loretti, and he'll make that work. Bartine will be looking for an opportunity down the straight here, I'm sure, to take that back at the start of the next lap, though. So again, recapping that top 10, Scott Pocock out in front, a second gap to Craig Edwards, who's followed closely by Matt Tesoriero and Doug Gowans. And then another second and a half back to this group that we're watching now. Adrian Loretti holding 5th place from Scott Bartine, with Darren Fahey, Ryan Palmer and Jason Depp all close behind, just waiting for a mistake from one of those lead drivers. Andrew Johnston then, further back in 10th place, now 7 seconds back. Must have just taken Josh Harris, who's tucked in behind him there for 11th. The rest of the field really spreading out behind this top 10. There's some huge gaps that have opened up. And we've got... Look, I mean, we're talking 15, 20 seconds from the leaders, not far back from that. So Doug Gowans makes the move. This long straight proving really important to take into account from a strategy perspective. As we've got a little bit of an issue with Craig Edwards' connection there, but he seems to be okay for the moment. So just a little bit blinky. We don't love to see it. And we've had Luke Hayden disqualified. I think that's probably a disconnection issue there. He's had some issues with the connection to the session show, so unfortunately he's had to be disqualified from this round. He'll collect no points, and that is unfortunate for Mr. Hayden. Just a glimpse of Scott Pocock there off in the distance in that last shot as he pulls well out in front. Doug Gowans making this look easy. But here we are. This is where the action is. Loretti, Bartine and Fahey. Ryan Palmer's along for the ride a little, but these three have been at it for laps. So let's see what Scott Bartine's got up the sleeve. And will Fahey stick with him for a pass down the main straight? Will Fahey even wait? He's got the drive out of the corner. He's right on the back of Bartine there. Adrian Loretti, though, starting to put just a little more distance than Scott Bartine would probably like. But here we go. This is where Scott Bartine's going to tuck in and look to make the move. So we see Fahey pull out, as does Bartine. We're 3 wide. But Bartine will have the pace. Now he can't turn in. There we go. So, how's that going to play into the rest of the race? Are these three going to end up swapping positions for the next 17 and a half minutes? At this stage, they're not catching those front runners. Now find themselves almost 4 seconds back from the leader. But Scott Bartine back in front. Now Darren Fahey ahead of Loretti. The Kittens teammates just swapping it up there. Ryan Palmer quite content at the moment just to sit on the back and take a bit of a drive along with them. He's nice and safe. If he can hold it together, he'll pick up 8th here, which will absolutely be an ADHD record in terms of their points score. Josh Harris back in 10th as well. So as a team, they're looking pretty good for the night. Doesn't have to be a top finish, but some solid points won't hurt them. We're just getting word from race control. So that incident earlier, we've seen Jason Depp hit with a 10-second time penalty for contact with Lam Nguyen. So Jason Depp at fault with that incident with Lam Nguyen on lap 7, that turn 3 incident. So that 10-second time penalty, he's down in 18th. That'll see him drop almost back to 19th, which will be Lam Nguyen who he's caused the damage to. So it'll almost correct that. But Nguyen now a long way back thanks to those incidents. Greg Bradley also with that damage, as we see Scott Bartine making the move on Matt Tesoriero. He's done a great job to catch up. They are wheel to wheel. Bartine just using all of the track there Tell you what, they're very kind with the track limits here in Portugal. A long way outside the ripple strip, but still totally acceptable with these cars. So Scott Bartine looking to make the move. Now, can he put some distance between the kit and racing entries, with Tesoriero acting as a little bit of interference there? Because they're going to have to make the move past, and Tesoriero is not going to make it easy. As we see Craig Edwards finally being caught by Scott Pocock and Doug Gowans up ahead. So here we are, our top three. Edwards, Pocock, Gowans. That gap closing right up, so I'd have to think that Edwards has decided to back it off a little bit and look for a fuel saving strategy. As we get to 15 minutes remaining, we're a little over halfway in this race, but still a long way to go. They're going to have to be thinking about fuel soon, I'm sure. No one that we've seen has made a stop yet, bar all of the damage along the way. So there's the front-running Kittens entry, Scott Pocock sitting in second now. He'll have to make a move down this straight, surely. He's going to have all the run on Craig Edwards. But can it be enough? And he's going to have to watch carefully because Doug Gowan's right behind him. I reckon he'll be looking to make a move here as well. Good move from Pocock. Takes the inside line, defends from Doug Gowans. So they hold their position. Craig Edwards looks very, very controlling here tonight. I don't think he's driving at the limit of that car at all. Just doing enough to keep his nose out in front and to hold off Pocock and Gowans until he's ready to pull off into the pits and make his stop. So beautiful, beautiful drive at this stage from Edwards. Just really controlling the field from the front. As we've taken Scott Bartine, sure enough, has started to open up the gap. So Darren Fay's managed to make it past Matt Tesoriero, but Adrian Loretti and Ryan Palmer still stuck behind. That gap, though, widening out. Darren Fay now a second behind Scott Bartine. As we take a look back ahead, Craig Edwards just completely controlling of this race. Making it look effortless, and that car is so well planted. Haven't seen a single twitch from it all night. He's just driving so far within the limits, and still the level of pace that he's got here. Now I reckon we'll see Gowans. He's looking for a move. Pocock stays to the inside. Here comes Gowans. He's got the slipstream. Pocock goes wide, looking for the line. Does Gowans a massive favour and moves over out of the slipstream for him. So here's Gowans up the inside. Pocock's going to have to concede that. And in the end, an easy and very clean move. So Pocock will just want to stay on the back and get ready to swap positions again at the end of this lap. As now Scott Bartine, demonstrating that speed that we saw from him in round one, starts to close in on the back of the Kittens Racing entry. Oh, a bit of a lock up there from Doug Gowans. That's going to give Pocock a bit of an opportunity. Can't make the most of it though. He's still stuck there, half a second back. He's going to have to be closer than that as he comes onto the main straight. And we look a little further back, and Palmer's actually made the move. He's past Loretti, and Loretti all over the back of that ghastly bloody livery. I've got to give it some airtime just because of how bad it is. Oh, look at that. They've had to label the top and middle fins there just to make sure they get them the right way around, and then the bottom fin labelled as well. So look, probably not a bad idea. The ADHD boys get distracted easily after all. Already wants that spot back, desperate to take it back from Ryan Palmer, if only so that he doesn't have to look at that livery anymore. If I was Loretti, I'd want to get past it real fast. As we take a look again as we come onto the front straight, and Scott Pocock is still half a second back. I don't think that's going to be enough. Now, there we go. We've got Scott Bartine coming into the pit. That's the first of the front runners we've seen pit. So he's going to go in and get fuel. The rest of that top 8 staying out for now. So keep that in mind. Scott Bartine's made his stop. We've seen Hayden Kellnan now in the pits behind him. The ADHD entry there, Ryan Palmer goes very wide and already dances on through. But straight back into it, Palmer's got the pace and back up the inside line. Loretti's going to get really frustrated with that, I'm sure, but great to see these guys from position. Loretti moves to the inside again. He's got the pace out of that corner. Interesting set of lines these guys are taking. They're battling back and forth, but at the moment, all it's doing is costing them time to Fay and Tesoriero in front. As we look to the front again, Craig Edwards has opened up a huge gap. Doug Gowan's now almost 2 seconds behind. So here we are, Doug Gowans. Scott Pocock's still stuck to the back of him like glue. But Craig Edwards continues to disappear into the distance, opening that gap up further and further. Nothing but clear air. And then another gap back to the next pack of Darren Fay and Matt Tesoriero. Adrian Loretti and Ryan Palmer starting to fall back from there. And then a huge 10-second gap back to Josh Harris in 8th. The field massively spread out behind them. Look at the amount of space here on that front lap. So Scott Pocock's come in now. Pocock is into the pits. He's taking on fuel. We're into the last 10 minutes of the race. These guys have got to be starting to think about their stops. Craig Edwards, with the pace he's had, can't have much left in the tank, so he's looking to put himself as far in front as possible. We see Josh Harris and Andrew Johnston both coming into the pits as well. Pocock's been in there a long time. 34.5 seconds end to end in the pit lane. 4.8 second stop, so not too bad. He's taken on a bit of fuel, but not as much as some. Scott Bartine, comparatively, 6.5 seconds in the box. So whether he's done a tyre swap as well, I'm not sure. We'll take a look back. Ryan Palmer just leading away from Adrian Loretti still. These two going at it as most of the rest of the field starts pulling into the pits. So we've got our top 8 all still out there. Nathan Bowman in 10th still hasn't pitted. And Scott Pocock's gotten out ahead of him. So our effective race leader at the moment, Scott Pocock back in 9th, followed by Scott Bartine in 11th. So the question will be, can these guys get far enough ahead? Scott Pocock currently 34 seconds behind Craig Edwards. Most of the pit stops we've seen taking somewhere around 36, 37. Craig Edwards comes in. So that's Craig Edwards in. Doug Gowan's in behind him. Here they all come. Darren Fay in. Matt Tesoriero. Ryan Palmer's in. Adrian Loretti's in. Tom Maloney. Let's keep an eye on this. Is he going to come in as well? So he's in. Scott Butler behind. Now here comes Scott Pocock. Craig Edwards is through and out 34 seconds. Blisteringly fast stop. So Scott Pocock's going to go past a few of these guys, but Doug Gowans is out as well. Really fast stops. Only 4.2 seconds for both of those. Scott Pocock just getting out ahead of Fay. Craig Edwards, brilliant drive, maintains his number 1 spot despite the pit stop. Absolutely dominating. Now, we've got an investigation. Scott Bartine, an incident there on lap 17. Something's been reported. Let's go back and take a quick look. So where's the contact been? Oh, that's unfortunate. But I think he's done that to himself, potentially. Let's wait and see what happens with that one. Done a lot of damage, and unfortunately for Scott Bartine, no matter what happens there, I can't see him being back in the running with needing those repairs. He's ended up back in 17th now. So it's not looking good for him, but Craig Edwards has made his pit stop, taken on fuel, still maintains a 2.5 second gap back to Doug Gowans, and there's Scott Pocock, who made the earlier stop. and still couldn't catch up with Craig Edwards. The pace of that front-running entry is just unbelievable. Matt Tesoriero now has Ryan Palmer starting to breathe down his neck, so he's going to have to be careful. Palmer's doing a great job, though. The gap back to Loretti, pushing out even further. Now out to 2.5 seconds here, back to Loretti. And sure enough, that incident we looked at just a moment ago, Scott Bartine, nothing there for the stewards. They're saying race incident. And unfortunately for Mr. Bartine, that's pretty well his race done in terms of his hopes of picking up any decent number of points. So he'll be thanking his lucky stars there's still a drop round included in these first 4 rounds of the season, because this will not be his best showing, that's for sure. Now finds himself down in 17th position. As Ryan Palmer still trying to just tuck on the back of Tesoriero. Struggling to break the 6/10 mark though. So we'll see what he manages down the front straight. I don't know if he's going to get the pass done though. There's a lot being asked of him. Pulls it back to within half a second. So here we go. Palmer doing everything he can to stay in that slipstream. But it's not going to be enough. Unless he goes deep under brakes. Here he comes. He's got the pace. Is he going to make the move? Okay, good choice. Good choice. Playing it safe. He knows he's got to hold it together for the ADHD racing team. And then just wait for the mistake. Just like that. Matt Tesoriero under a bit of pressure. A bit of a wheel lock-up. And now Ryan Palmer right on that back bumper. He's going to look to make the move here. Puts the nose up alongside. And Tesoriero wisely backs it out. And there we go. You know which side is the back of that spoiler as well. That's fantastic. Well done, ADHD. As we see a new fastest lap, Scott Bartine. He's driving angry now. Sets a new fastest lap, 1:35.732. So very, very quick, but he's going to need a lot more than that to come back from 17th after that incident. Now, can Tesoriero hold on here, or is Palmer going to pull away from him? He's losing ground, now out to 4/10. But if he can stay here, he's going to have the run down the straight and might just have a shot at it through turn 1. We go on board. Let's take a lap with Matt Tesoriero and let's see if he makes the move here. Suspension working hard. Ryan Palmer looking for way back through but can't do it. Tesoriero holds that position, but Ryan Palmer all over him. This is where Palmer made the move last lap. Is he going for it again? Just sticks in behind. Happy to stay in the draft as they pull through the corner, trying desperately to get the traction down. Tesoriero can't pull away. Palmer still all over him. As he bangs down through the ears. Oh, so close to contact. And Palmer's spun. Oh, no. Palmer's pushed too hard and that's it. He drops away. And Tesoriero breathes a sigh of relief. He is on his own with a couple seconds now back to Loretti. Ryan Palmer all the way back to 8th. That's devastating for him. He was racing so well and just couldn't hold it together. Meanwhile, up front, just a reminder, Craig Edwards 4.5 seconds out in front of Doug Gowans. A complete masterclass. We're going to have to, I don't know, put some extra weight in his car next week or something like that, because that is just phenomenal. We take a look here, Nathan Bowman and Matthew Neal going at it for 15th and 16th respectively. Neal just threatening in the background. Bowman got a lot of clear space in front of him, so he'll be watching the mirrors. as Matthew Neal in the ANZ CRL livery and the ANZ CRL team entry. Looking actually really nice. Do love to see the team liveries coming out in these events. But he'll be looking to put a bit of a move on Bowman and maybe grab a spot here down the straight. Here we go. He's close enough for the draft. Half a second back. He'll be picking up some extra speed here. Probably won't be enough to make a move at the end of the straight. Scott Bartine, another fastest lap, 1:35.6. That man is driving very, very angry right now. And that's him in the background. He's actually 1.6 off the back of Matthew Neal here. So if these guys are watching, they'll see him moving up very quickly behind them. As Bowman loses the pace, Matthew Neal's got the pace as we come down here. He'll get a shot at this. He'll poke up the inside, I reckon. Looks to the outside. Scott Bartine making huge inroads on these two. I wonder if Matthew Neal's going to see him coming at this stage. And here we go. We've just had final lap called. Final lap. Craig Edwards. Craig Edwards has had an issue. What's happened there? After such a solid drive. Oh no. He's just gone too hard. The tyres have let him down. And that's been enough. That's been enough to allow Doug Gowans to catch up. So let's go forward. This is the race final lap for P1. Craig Edwards is going to look to make a move on Doug Gowans. He's going to have to stick close. Can he regather? Can he recover from that and regain the P1 that he's held virtually all race here? Let's stay on board. Still got plenty of pace through the corners here, so... Oh no! Craig Edwards! He's lost it! He's gone! He's gone! Oh! That's heartbreak. He's pushed those tyres to the absolute limit all day, and Craig Edwards, from leading most of this, finds himself back in 6th, maybe even 7th as Depp comes through. Doug Gowans rolling on through, clean air all around him. As he takes the checkered flag, followed through by Scott Pocock and Darren Fahey rounding out the top 3. Craig Edwards, oh, heartbreak. After an incredible race, he manages to hold off Jason Depp, but he'll be absolutely devastated. It's not often you'd say you'd be unhappy with a P6, but after the race he put on today, he just overcooked those tyres and had nothing left. We see the rest of the field starting to make their way through, but Doug Gowans, well done. An outstanding drive, very consistent all day. And then Scott Pocock and Darren Fahey right behind as well. Bloody great finish, absolutely right. And you know what? You don't have to be the fastest on track, but you do have to finish clean to pick up a P1, and that win's come out of nowhere. Well, for a race that was so spread out, I tell you what, it certainly delivered the thrills at the right time. So here we have it, the results from race 2 of round 2, our Super Formula Lights MC Motorsport Championship. Doug Gowans takes the win. We thought it was Craig Edwards all night. We thought it was going to be Craig Edwards, and that last lap he just couldn't hold it together. I'm hearing from Craig that the heater in his room kicked on with 10 minutes to go and cooked him. I suspect it was a little more than that. Those tyres just had nothing left to give. He'd been absolutely smashing them the whole way. Doug Gowans, well done. Takes out P1. Scott Pocock and Darren Fahey backing up Kittens Racing 2 and 3. They'll be stoked with that. Matt Tesoriero puts in a great showing to pull 4th, and Loretti another Kittens Racing entry in 5th, with Edwards managing to salvage a 6th. Followed by Jason Depp, the Velocity Racing Team entry, and Ryan Palmer in 8th for ADHD. I reckon that's got to be a record for those guys. So well done to ADHD for getting on the podium. As we see the Kittens Racing entry wasting those tyres. Great to see. Doug Gowans, look, watch the wall, mate. Watch the wall. Hayden Kellnan taking 9th and Tom Maloney in 10th as well. As we look a bit further back in the field, Greg Bradley, Jake Robillard, Lam Nguyen and Scott Butler. Scott Bartine managing to salvage a 15th after that big crash for Everything Simulated Racing. Matthew Neal pulling a 16th out again. Nathan Bowman in 17th. Then Jamie Nankervis for Valve Esport in 18th. Sam Kay in 19th for Velocity SimLab. Josh Harris dropped back to 20th there for ADHD Racing. And Andrew Johnston back in 21st. Brian East pulling out a 22nd spot there with Slightly Slow Racing. Matthew Dryden 23rd. Tristan McLaren had a shocker of a race there with the Everything Simulated entry coming in 24th. And then you can see the damage done to all of these other cars that just didn't make it. Lee Keldoulis, Chris Philippou, both 5 and 7 laps back there. Ian Ward, 19 laps back. Mitch Curry, sitting out for 20 laps, copped some big damage early on, and that's his night done. Luke Hayden and Luke Speck, not even showing, unfortunately. 23 and 24 laps since they jumped off there, but what a way to finish. And the boys using up the last of the tyres there on the home straight. Well, that's round 2 done. What a couple of races. We had some outstanding results all round, some thrills and spills as always. Not as close a race as I was expecting, but tell you what, it's still delivered as we see tyre smoke filling the main straight here at Portimao. And what a day we've had at Portugal. Thank you all so much for coming along with us and cheering these guys on. We look forward to Thursday night bringing you the next round of the Toyota 86 Cup. And then, of course, we're back again next Monday night for round 3 of the Super Formula Lights Championship. This broadcast brought to you tonight by Simple Racing Broadcasts, proudly presented on behalf of MC Motorsports. And been great having you all along. Very much looking forward to seeing you all again later in the week as we jump into the 86s and then again next week for the next round of Super Formula Lights. Until next time, my name is Jared Cole. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here with you. And I bid you a very good evening and a farewell. We'll see you soon.